Coming to the second slide, Splunk is also known as Google-like search engine. So what's the difference between Google and Splunk? In Google, we get the data across the globe, because in Google we put each and every data. If we search for Bahubali, if we search for Accenture, if we search for Splunk, if we search for you take it as MindMax technology, anything, whatever you search for, you can get everything, because we are putting the log across the globe. And and what we do in Splunk? Splunk is a Google-like search engine, but only for the IT data. Only for the IT data. So that's the main difference between Google and Splunk. In Splunk also you can see a rectangular box like Google. In Google, what happens when you do google.com? You can see a rectangular box where you write the query, and put enter, and you can see the result in front of you. In Splunk also the same thing happens. When you open Splunk.com, you will have the small, not Splunk.com, the Splunk server. You'll have a small rectangular box, a long rectangular box where you want to, where you have to write your query, and based on the query, you can see the result in front of you, in front of your computer. That's the reason people call it as a Google-like search engine. Now coming to the version point, we have 3 versions available in Splunk. Number 1 is Splunk Enterprise Trial Version. Enterprise trial version is valid for 60 days. When you download Splunk from Splunk.com, that will be enterprise trial version. So that enterprise trial version will be valid for 60 days. After 60 days, you'll have almost all the similar features. You'll have almost all the features similar to the Splunk license version. But after 60 days, it will ask for the license. Either you have to purchase the license or you have to convert it to the free version. So I will go ahead and purchase a license if I have the money in my pocket. If I'm running a company. If I'm not running a company, if everything is okay, I want to use it for standalone PC, then I would rather go for the free version. But in free version, the one thing happens, most of the features will be disabled. The number 1 feature is user access control. User access control won't be there. In the sense, when you hit the Splunk URL, in the enterprise trial version, you have to give the username and password to authenticate, and then only it will take you to the home page of Splunk. But in free version, it will not happen like that. The moment you hit the Splunk URL, you will directly go to the home page. It means you cannot create the user, there is no user management, nothing, there is no distributed search, you cannot create a schedule search, alert. All these things will not be there in free version. Number 1, there's one more point for licensing. In Splunk, the license depends on the amount of data which is indexing per day. Indexing in the sense, the amount of data which is storing per day. So by default, Splunk gives 500 MB of data per day, 500 MB of data. So assume you have not purchased a license, you are running a enterprise trial version, and you have 2 GB of data to store in Splunk. It means it will take total 4 days for you to store the data. It will take total 4 GB for you to store the data. It means 500, 500, 500, 500. OS supported. We have, Splunk is a cross-platform application, cross-platform software, you can say rather. It can be installed and worked upon Windows 32-bit and 64-bit, Linux, Solaris, OS X, FreeBSD, AIX, HPUX. So we have the software available accordingly. So if you're working for Windows, we have a different software. If you're working for Linux, then we have a different software. So all in all, it's a cross-platform software or an application. What does Splunk do? Now these slides will talk a little bit more in depth about server metrics. These are the sources of Splunk, from where it can take the data. Database logs, email logs, virtual logs, cache management. Now the more important thing is that script, which you can see here at the little bit right top side. Scripts. Data can be taken as a... Hello?
Yeah, I have one doubt. Yeah, what is the difference between the different OS?
Difference between different OS?
Yeah, we are using the different OS with the Splunk.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference?
Difference between what?
Difference between the we are using in different OSs. Right?
Yeah, right. No, see the the difference is, let's say you want to get the log from Windows system, right? So if there is no software for the Windows system, then it is not possible for you to get the data from Windows, right? So that's the reason we do have a software, we do have a Splunk software for Windows system as well. Let's say an example, we have a different operating system available, right? If I'm saying that Splunk can take the data from different sources, it means operating system is one of the sources, right?
Okay.
So Windows has got its own. Let's say if I go to the this slide, then you can easily understand. Windows has got Windows Server is also an application. So that operating system is also a software which is running in the backend. It has got its internal log called registry, event logs, file system, sysinternal. So how do I get all these logs from Windows to Splunk? So if Splunk will not be installed in Windows, then it is not possible. So that's the reason Splunk.com has made a software for Windows operating system also, so that they can easily take the log from Windows system. Now if you talk about the Linux, in Linux also they have got its own log. This log, then you can run any command, ps, iostat, top, to get the output, or any configuration. You can have var log messages, var log secure, var log cron, warlog, mailbox. So a lot of internal files are there which has to be taken as an input to Splunk. So if you don't have a software available where you can install, if you don't have a software available which has to be installed in the particular OS, and it's not possible to get the data from that particular OS. That's why Splunk is prepared for all kind of OS to get the data. You got the point? To get the data from the sources.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So looking at the scripts, we were on the scripts. Let's say you already have got some data coming from some source, and you have a Perl script in between. So that script is running on your raw data, and it is generating some output. Obviously, scripts generate some output, right? So that output also can be taken as an input to Splunk. So that's the reason I have written scripts over there. I mean, the meaning of script is like that. If already, let's say before implementing Splunk in your environment, there are already some scripts running which is producing some output. Now you implemented Splunk in environment. So how Splunk will get the data? So that output of the scripts can be given as the input data to Splunk. So that is also possible. So Splunk claims, I'm telling you again and again, Splunk claims, Splunk says that give me the data. I don't really care where exactly the data is coming from. I'll process the data. I don't know where the data is coming from. Okay, how the data is coming from, what is the structure of the data, how much the data is coming. I'll just process. Give me the data. So data is coming from server matrices, data is coming from router, any network device, or the data is coming from any scripts, or I am creating my own data by my own hand. If I create a notepad and if I write something, hi, Abhay is a good boy, Abhay is a Splunk trainer, blah 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 blah, and I save it, that can also be given as an input to Splunk. So Splunk does not care how the data is getting generated. Splunk says, you just give me the data, I'll process it, and I'll give it the output in the form of the visualization, in the form of the graph. That's it. This is a deal between the sources of data and Splunk. Now, what does Splunk provide? Splunk provides the four stuffs. These are the common interface for all IT data. Search. As I told you, Splunk provides SPL, Splunk Search Processing Language, which is a query for Splunk for analyzing the data. The number second is alert. You can set an alert for any suspicious activity happening in the organization. So Splunk has that capabilities as well. Alert in the sense, it will send you the notification mail. Let's say we all are from the IT industry, so we know if we log in 3 times in the system, let's say if we are a laptop is given to us or a desktop is given to us, so we know the username and password, but somehow for some reason